You know, miles beneath the ocean's surface, there's a gold rush happening right now. But it's not for gold. We're talking about a high-stakes race for the stuff that's going to power our green future. And believe me, it is completely changing the game of global politics.
We're talking about a whole new territory being claimed, thousands of meters down. The prize is a bunch of rocks that could literally power our future. But here's the real question, the one we're going to dig into. As we're all rushing to save the planet with clean energy, are we about to accidentally destroy one of its last totally untouched places to do it? What's the real cost here?
All right, so what's all the fuss about? Well, it all comes down to these, well, they kind of look like potatoes, just sitting on the bottom of the ocean.
Okay, their official name is polymetallic nodules, but a better way to think of them is like natural batteries. Seriously, they've been slowly forming over millions of years down on the abyssal seafloor, and they're just packed with the good stuff. Cobalt, nickel, manganese. You know, all the critical metals you absolutely need for electric vehicle batteries and other renewable energy tech. And get this, the concentration of these metals is often way higher than what you'd find in most mines on land. That efficiency, it could be a total game changer. I mean, think about a normal mine. You have to move mountains of dirt just to get a little bit of ore. But with these nodules, the whole idea is to just scoop them up. It's almost like vacuuming the bottom of the sea.
So you can imagine, this kind of potential hasn't exactly been a secret. And there's one country in particular that has been playing a very, very smart long game to basically own this new frontier. So let's dive into China's deep sea playbook.
The ground zero for this whole thing is this huge chunk of the Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and Mexico. It's called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or the CCZ for short. And let me tell you, this is the mother lode. It's the biggest, richest deposit of these nodules anywhere on Earth. Plain and simple, whoever controls the CCZ controls the future of battery metals.
And this timeline, wow, it just lays out the whole power shift perfectly. For a while, it looked like Western companies, like Canada's The Metals Company, were leading the pack. But then, look what happens. Late 2024, their deal with the island nation of Kiribati just collapses. Fast forward a few months to early 2025, and suddenly the Cook Islands does a complete 180, pivoting away from Western partners to sign a big strategic deal with Beijing. You can see the pattern, right?
And look, this isn't just about making friends and signing deals. China is showing the world it has the tech to do this, like right now. This beast you're seeing, it's the Kaito 2. It's a gigantic underwater mining robot, and in June of 2024, it actually worked, collecting nodules from more than 4,000 meters down. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is real.
Okay, so the fight isn't just happening with giant robots at the bottom of the sea. There's another battle, a diplomatic one, going on inside the headquarters of this agency you've probably never heard of, but it holds all the cards.
Let me introduce you to the International Seabed Authority, the ISA. They're the UN body based out of Jamaica that basically makes the laws for anything happening in international waters. And they have a really tough job. On one hand, they're supposed to manage all these deep-sea minerals for the good of everyone. But on the other hand, they're also supposed to protect the ocean environment. It's a huge conflict of interest, right?
And this is where things get really interesting. See, the tiny island nation of Nauru, which happens to be a partner for some of these mining companies, pulled a wild card. They triggered this obscure rule called the 2-year rule. Basically, it's a legal loophole that starts a countdown clock, forcing everyone's hand. Nauru's official line is they just want legal certainty to get this whole industry off the ground.
So what does that mean? It means the ISA is now under incredible pressure. China and its allies are pushing like crazy to get the final rulebook, the official mining code, signed, sealed, and delivered by the end of 2025. If they succeed, it could throw the doors wide open for commercial mining, maybe before we even have a clue what the real environmental damage will be. But not everyone is on board with this rush. A resistance is building. That number right there, 37, that's how many countries are hitting the brakes. We're talking big names too, like the UK, France, and Germany. They're all calling for a full stop, or at least a precautionary pause. It's a huge deal, and it shows just how split the world is on this.
And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. The head of the ISA herself, Leticia Carvajal, issued this really stark warning. What she's saying is if companies start going rogue and doing their own thing, it could completely tear down the whole system of laws that has governed our oceans for decades. It's a dangerous precedent.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all, the final, critical piece of this whole puzzle. If the pro-mining side wins this fight, what's the actual environmental cost? What's the real gamble here? So this pretty much shows the #1 environmental threat. The mining process basically kicks up these huge underwater dust storms called sediment plumes. You get one from the robot vacuuming the seafloor, and then you get a second one from the ship up on the surface when it dumps all the unwanted mud and water back into the ocean. And these clouds can travel for tens, even hundreds of kilometers.
And the damage they could do is just devastating. We're talking about suffocating ancient deep-sea corals and sponges that have been there for centuries, clogging the gills of fish so they can't breathe, releasing toxic metals that work their way up the entire food chain. And that's before you even think about the noise. The constant 24/7 industrial noise could totally screw up the migration and communication of whales and dolphins.
You know, it's so important to get this one thing straight. The deep ocean is not some empty, dead zone. It's the opposite. It is a complex, connected food web. Every single day, there's this massive migration of creatures moving up and down, connecting the deepest parts of the ocean to the surface. So the idea that what happens in the deep stays in the deep is just flat out wrong.
And this is where it really hits home, literally on your dinner plate. This chart shows a direct overlap. The exact same spot they want to mine is also a critical fishing ground for tuna, so all that contamination from the plumes, it could build up in the fish that millions of us eat. Just to put it in perspective, for a country like Mexico, up to 1/5 of their entire tuna catch comes from right here.
Okay, so how do we even begin to weigh these risks against the benefits? Let's compare this new deep-sea frontier to the mining we're already familiar with on land. Let's check out the scorecard.
This is a really tough one, right? When you look at mining on land, you've got awful issues like child labor in places like the Congo, not to mention deforestation. Deep-sea mining, with its robotic harvesters, seems to solve that problem. But here's the trade-off, and it is a big one. We'd be swapping one kind of disaster for another. We might reduce the human cost, but we'd be destroying a seafloor habitat that scientists say might not recover for thousands of years, if ever. A forest can grow back in a few centuries. This could be permanent.
And that right there is the choice we're facing. Look, the world absolutely needs these critical minerals to fight climate change. That part isn't up for debate. But is the answer to rip open an entirely new industrial frontier in the biggest, most mysterious ecosystem we have? Is this a race to the bottom of the ocean our best solution, or is it a massive gamble that we just can't afford to lose?